Hello friends, I am again back talking about linear algebra. We are gradually pushing towards the goal. You must have noticed most of the days you see at my back, you possibly you have understood that I am sitting on the floor. It's nice to be doing that in the summers. At the back there is some book. I hope that it catches your attention. For those who are seeing it regularly, that this catches your attention. Today at the back there is a book called Genius at Play. It is about a man called John Horton Conway, one of the greatest mathematical minds of the 20th century. And he passed away on April 11th in COVID-19. It's a stark reminder of how this disease doesn't differentiate. So it's very important that those who are involved in mathematics should look up for his life. He's known something for Game of Life. Just like write Conway's Game of Life in Google. It's a kind of cellular automata, and you will see that suddenly your computer screen is gradually being infiltrated by a kind of small moving organisms, something they're just spreading across the screen. It's a very, very fascinating. I guess you should see it. This man who said that he had played all his life but had been doing extremely beautiful mathematics. So he passed away on April 11th, so maybe it's time that we also honor our greats. Mathematics always honors its greats. I sometimes wonder what is my own relationship with mathematics, because I am possibly a messenger. I do not know whether I am a researcher or not, though sometimes I would like to call myself one. I do something, but actually I think I am more interested in understanding things, and as I try to understand things, I kind of ask questions and try to understand these questions, which are sometimes done at a which can be called research. So maybe I'm more interested in understanding. He said that he was interested in playing all his life, but he wasn't. He was playing, of course, but he was doing great mathematics. So it's a must that you should look up John Horton's Conway's life and Conway's Game of Life. So today we are going to speak about some very important fact. A lot of mathematics, in fact a lot of physics, depends on this notion of linear operators. Linear operators are particular type of functions between two vector spaces. It takes an element of a vector space, say U, and maps it to a element of vector space V. So T is a mapping where it operates on X in U and gives me some Y in V. That is, Y is T of X. But this mapping is special in the sense that it does kind of operations, and it has a particular property that it has to satisfy, and that property is what we call linearity. And linear maps are important, for example, in quantum mechanics to describe subatomic particles. So here is the definition. Here is the definition. So here U and V are abstract vector spaces, and T is a mapping from U to V. So here, if I say U1 and U2 are elements of U and I add them, so because U is a vector space, U1 plus U2 is also in U. So T can operate on it. And the result, what is the result of that vector operation? What is the result of that operation of T on U1 plus U2? That is nothing but T of U1 plus T of U2. You see, U1 plus U2 is an element of U. So this plus operation that you see here is a plus operation in U. And the plus operation that you see here is a plus operation in V. So TU1 is element of V and TU2 is element of V, which we are adding. And then the second operation is called the operation of multiplying by a scalar. It's called a homogenization operation. It's sometimes called the homogeneous property. The function is homogeneous in the sense that if you scale a vector in U and then operate T, it is same as if you first operate the vector on T, vector T, when I operate on vector U the map T, get a TU in V, and then this new vector TU that you have got, that you multiply or scale by the scalar alpha. So alpha of T of U is same as T of alpha U. So this is called homogeneous property. The function is homogeneous, and for this upper property 1 is called the function being additive. Any function that satisfies these two properties are called a linear function. Okay, now let us look at now T from Rn to Rn, the most simplest situation, because that is the most simplest vector space. That is the prototype vector space we started discussing with. So let us look at that very simple thing first, and then we can think of something others. What we are going to show is that operation of a matrix, operation of a linear operator from T, from Rn to Rn, can be viewed as a matrix depending on the basis that you have chosen to represent Rn. So you can choose any basis. It need not be always that 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, that kind of E1, E2, En. It need not be that. Whatever you choose, you can actually show that the effect of the operation is same as if we are operating with a matrix. So the linear operator from Rn to Rn can be viewed as a matrix. It is always a matrix. So that is why this term matrix becomes important. It itself is a vector, but it is also an operator. That's the interesting part. You can view it as there is a two way of viewing it. It is a vector, it is also an operator. So this set of operators or linear operators from Rn to Rn will form a vector space, which is the same space of matrices, vector space of matrices. So let us see what we can do. So here is the scene. So here is V hat is a vector in Rn which has coordinates alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha n. Now if you take E1, E2, En, the canonical basis, that is E1 is 1, 0, 0, means Ei, the vector Ei has all components 0 except the ith component which is 1. So any V vector can be now expressed in this linear combination where the scalars associated with these E1, E2, En are actually the coordinates that represent V. In fact, when you write, say, any an Rn, V hat is equal to, say, alpha 1, W1, alpha 2, W2, alpha and Wn. These coefficients that you get in this linear combination are actually coordinates of that vector in Rn. That's the key idea. So you change the basis, this is a different basis, the coordinates will change. Naturally, if you, for example, if you have this 1, 0, 0, 1, the coordinate axis, and then you rotate the coordinate axis. So given a point which was xy in the old coordinate system, in the rectangular coordinate system, will change when you rotate the coordinate system. Right? So that is exactly what happens. Right? Now, what happens is when you put this V, you then apply T. So you will apply here on T, and then you apply the linear fact that T is a linear map, and you apply that fact that you can T of alpha 1 E1 plus T of alpha 2 E2 plus Tn of alpha of En, and then by the homogeneity property you can take these things out and you will get this. But how do I create a matrix? Where is that matrix? So to understand where that matrix is, we shall actually talk about the operation called a matrix operating on a vector. So what do you mean by matrix operating on a vector or multiplying a matrix with a vector? When you multiply a matrix with a vector, so n cross n matrix is multiplied with a n cross 1 vector, n vector in Rn. So A is a matrix which has n rows and n columns, so n square elements, that is being multiplied with n. So we have not discussed what is matrix multiplication, but we are starting with the most simplest case. So one matrix has n rows and n columns, And a vector can be viewed as a matrix which has n rows but one column. So ultimately what you get when you multiply a matrix and a vector is a vector. So the first thing that one has to understand, when you multiply a vector and a matrix, you get a vector. How? How to compute? Now here is a matrix whose elements are aij, and here is V. Here is V, the vector, and has coordinates x1 dot 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 xn. Now how do I multiply these two? What is A into V hat? Right? That's the type of thing that we want to know. How do we define that operation? So what we do is very simple. We take the vector A vector, take the first row. So that's a vector. So basically you might ask me, oh, you said that the vectors are always represented by columns. Okay, when we write a row, we have actually transposed the vector, written it as a row and written them down. So I take a row vector from the matrix. I say the first row is given by the A1 vector, and then take an inner product with the V vector, or the dot product. So this, you see, A, here is a mistake, I guess, is there should be A into V hat. I think I will make a correction here. So here is A into V hat. So A into V hat, A is having these rows, A1 transpose, AN transpose, these vectors when written as transposes. Transposes means you have written the column vector as a row. Instead of writing it as a column, you have written it as a row. Even when you're talking about a transpose of a matrix, what you mean is that now rows, which were rows, becomes columns, which were columns, they become rows. Now, here what is happening, A1 transpose, A2 transpose, so this is multiplied with V. So which means A1 transpose multiplied with V is same as writing A dot V, A1 dot V or A2 dot V. So you take the first row, take the inner product with the vector. It is a number, put it there. For second row, inner product with the vector V. The dot product is a number, put it as the second coordinate. And so you will get n coordinates. So you will get a vector of n coordinates. So here is that vector of n coordinates. So take the row and then take the inner product with V. Take the first row, inner product with V. Second row, inner product with V. Nth row, inner product with V. I get n real numbers which are now written as a row, written as a column vector. So A of V, an n cross n matrix multiplied with V, is a vector. It gives me a vector. So this is called the row approach. So now there is a thing called column approach. Means I can multiply it using the column. Or what we will also show in the next slide is that the row approach and column approach are the same. There is no difference between the row approach and the column approach. So here is that. So here C1, C2, Cn are the column vectors of the A n cross n matrix. So A of V hat is defined like this now. So if V has alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha n, actually it was written x1, x2, xn there. So here I am writing alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha n, doesn't matter. So if alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha n are the coordinates of V, then alpha 1 C1 vector plus alpha 2 C2 vector, this linear combination is nothing but AV. I think I always prefer this column type of definition because it doesn't tell you this typical thing that, oh, you have to take a dot product and then make a column. It simply tells you that, see guys, this product of a matrix into a vector is nothing but a linear combination of vectors. That is the most simplest thing. So here I have a vector, here are some elements, take the first element and take the first column, make the combination and add them up. Do a linear combination. These are the elements and these are the vectors. So C1, C2, Cn are the vectors and alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha n are the respective coefficients, and you make the linear combination with this and that will give you AV. Actually the row approach and column approach are actually same. That's what we are now going to show you. Observe here. So here let us just take a 2 by 2 matrix. So A11 is the first entry in the first row and first column, A12 first entry in the first row and second column, A21 first entry in the second row and first column, A22 the second entry in the second row and second column. So what is A V hat? When V hat is given as x1, x2, it is nothing but A V hat is nothing but A11. So what you do? You first take this vector A11, A12 and take an inner product with this vector V hat. So that will give you, when you take a dot product, A11 x1 plus A12 x2. And for the second element, you take the second row and then take an inner product with the vector V, which will give you A21 x1 plus A22 x2. Simple inner product. Now you can now view them, this vector, as an addition of these two vectors. That is the interesting thing. You can view this vector as an addition of these two vectors. Now here you see these are two numbers. Here x1 is the common one. You can take the x1 out, and then you can take the x2 out from this one, the second column. So ultimately AV now becomes x11 into the vector A11, A21, x2 into A12, A22. So it's a linear combination of these vectors A11, A21, A12, A22. And this linear combination is with the elements x1 and x2. And the interesting part is that these vectors A11, A21 is the first column of the matrix, and A12 and A22 and A22 is the second column of the matrix. So what I start with the row approach and I end up with the column approach. So column approach, or we can start with the column approach and go back to the row approach. So I can go in this direction also. I can write AV as this and then go exactly in this direction and reach here. So row approach and column approach are same. So the linear map again. So where is my matrix? So when you operated T, where V hat is given by alpha 1, has coordinates alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha n, and it is written in terms of the very standard basis vector, then T of V, as we have already written, alpha 1 TE1 plus dot dot alpha n TEn. So if I say TE1 as a vector, so T is taking an element from Rn to Rn, so TE1 is in Rn, so it's a vector. So if I form a matrix whose columns are, first column is TE1, second column is TE2, third column is TE3, and the nth dot 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 nth column is TEn, then this matrix, now this expression of linear combination can be expressed in terms of the matrix whose columns are TE1 dot 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 TEn with the vector V whose coordinates are alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha n. So this operation of T of V hat is expressed in terms of A V hat. So this operator T, linear operator T acting on this element of Rn is same as the matrix A multiplied with the element itself. So voila. So this is what it is. So we now know what a linear operator looks like when you are taking a linear operator from an element between Rn to Rn. That is when you take element of Rn to Rn by linear map. How does that look like? What is the structure? If the structure is a matrix. That is the beauty of mathematics. It tells you how simple the whole thing is at its heart. By this simple see, if you look at it, why I'm so excited to talk to you in this way, is that at the end, what are you doing? We are just using linear combination. That's the key operation of linear algebra, just linear combination. Just by doing linear combination, we are coming up with something. This whole simple idea of linear combination tells you how the structure of a linear map would look like when you are operating from Rn to Rn, and at the end finally from any finite dimensional vector space to another finite dimensional vector space. This is amazing. This is amazing. To me, it's still spine chilling to think that this very simple operation can lead to so much beauty, to so much power. It now tells you how you can play with the whole thing. But of course, the hindsight to the whole thing is that the same operator T, if you change the basis, the coordinates of the point naturally change. So if you have this 0, 1, 1, 0, Maybe I should write it like this. 0 1 1 0 for you, whichever way it should look like. 0 1 1 0, and then if I rotate this, or 0 1 1 0 like this, when I rotate this, I'll make this new one. So the coordinate will change. So because the coordinate will change, the matrix will change, even if the operator t remains the same. So the operator t is represented by matrix dependent on the basis with which you are representing the space Rn. But whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It only tells you that this simple idea of linear combination tells me how a structure of a linear map looks like. Just don't you think it's just an amazingly powerful idea? So I'll not take much of your time here. So here I just speak about, you see here I have the base B, the base is B, and I have a new basis. It's not E1, E2, En. Now with terms of the new basis, with any basis of Rn, I can write any element as a linear combination of the elements of the basis. Now B1, B2, Bn are actually beta 1, beta 2, beta n are the coordinates of the vector V with respect to the basis B, W1, W2, Wn. And when you do TV, it is the same thing. Now the new matrix is A hat, whose columns are TW1, TW2, TWN, and operating on the same vector V, whose coordinates are now beta 1, beta 2, beta n, because the basis has changed. So changing the basis changes the matrix. So let us now talk about notion of spanning and basis in terms when it comes to abstract spaces. We will talk about only finite dimensional abstract spaces. It could be space of matrix, could be space of operators, whatever, finite dimensional. What is in an infinite dimensional space we will also speak out. But let us just talk about first finite dimensional thing. Infinite dimensional spaces are those for which these type of things will not occur. Okay. We have spoken about what is a spanning set is for Rn. The same idea can now be taken for an abstract vector space. So now take B is a set of vectors W1, W2, Wn, a finite set of vectors. Wn I have written. It could be n, it could be k, whatever. Just look at this. So B is a set of vectors W1, W2, Wn. And now we say B is said to span the vector space V if every element V of V, small v of V, can be expressed as a linear combination of elements of V. Okay. And if this W1, so if the spanning set is finite, we call it a finite dimensional space. So if a space doesn't have a finite spanning set, means okay, I have n number of elements with which I can span. I don't need any more elements to span the vector space. For example, for a two-dimensional space, I need only two elements to span, two vectors. I don't need any more. But that number of vectors has to, okay, you can say that, okay, why not? I can have three. For two-dimensional space, you can have three, you can have four also, but two is the minimum required. Once I have two, I can span. And a basis is a spanning set which has all linearly independent elements. The vectors are linearly independent. You know, an element 0 by itself is never linearly independent, because you can put anything and that will be equal to 0, any number before it. So what is important is that if you have a spanning set which is linearly independent, then that is called a basis, and the number of elements of the basis is called the dimension. Now if you talk about infinite dimensional spaces, these are spaces which cannot be generated by a fixed spanning set. It doesn't have a finite spanning set. Means what happens is that you take any element there. So you have to first consider, for infinite dimensional space, you have to consider an element of, a large class of elements, a class of infinite class or countably infinite class of elements possibly. And from there, every element you pick some finite number of elements and make a linear combination and show that, okay, this element is a linear combination of these finite elements from this particular set. So that set is a spanning set if we are choosing some finite elements from there and showing that any element, I take an element of the set and show that it can be expressed as a linear combination of some finite number of elements from a collection of possibly uncountably infinite number of elements. Then the spanning set has infinitely uncountable number of elements. Spanning set is not fixed, it's not finite. Is that any element can be expressed as a linear combination of those finite number of elements only. No, that finite number of elements keeps on changing from element to element. That finite number of elements is not fixed. When that finite number of elements is fixed, and for every element the same finite number of elements would be used to express the element as a linear combination, that would give you what is called a finite dimensional space. So finite dimensional space needs finite spanning sets. That is very important. When you don't have finite spanning set, there's an infinite dimension vector spaces. So we have already spoken for 26 minutes. So we end here today with this very basic definition. Tomorrow we are going to start talking about linear independence, linear dependence, some properties of that, and we are going to give you some examples, and with that that will be the third part of this discussion on matrices and vectors, and we'll end there. Hope you enjoyed the talk. So what I want to again reassert here is the fundamentalness of the idea of linear combination. Linear algebra is based on the idea of linear combination. That's it. Anything you do is a linear combination. So thank you. Good night. Have a nice time.